Sopranos, Justified, they were all moments in my career where I was questioning how to do something new, how to do something in a new way, and how to kind of combat personal fear, right? So I had a really crazy childhood. And what The Handmaid's Tale did, obviously, yes, I did acknowledge like great things from my career. It really touched upon some personal demons. And some of those are, you know, the very same things that happened to the handmaids happened to me in real life. And so the process was one of those things that artists pray for and run away from, right? Because it's like this ultimate truth of creativity that you have to stare down demons and monsters and fears from your past that perhaps you've run from your whole life. And it's like a gift, right? It's like this incredible, bombastic, volcanic gift that happens, that erupts into hopefully something beautiful. But the job in and of itself was exhaustive in just the physicalness of it. We had to make everything. These clothes don't exist anywhere. And I was a stickler for, I knew I wanted to make everything to actually have not just the actors, but they're my first point of taking care of things. The actors, the DPs, the directors, all the audiences that follow will really believe that these people have made their own clothes out of no choice, not just because of Gilead's rules. There's nothing left in the world. Things are donated, yes, and fashioned into something else. But how did those clothes get there? The story was never told. And I will tell you what I told my crew. The how-to was, I said, we are living in Gilead. We are the unseen makers of these clothes, and there are two factories. One is the factory for all the handmaids, the Econo wives, the aunts, the guardians. You know, all of that has to be made because there's nothing left in the world. And so how does that happen? I was like, that's our factory. Everything has to be in-house. We're going to make it all here. We're going to dye it all here. I didn't know that a week before I got to Canada, or the very first week I was there, the fashion world shut down. I mean, hard to imagine, but something had happened over time, and I think it's back now, but all the fabric shops were closing because the fashion houses were going. It was like a weird moment in time in Toronto that felt like Gilead, like things just weren't around anymore. So getting fabric in huge amounts was huge. And we made our own factory and we made our own place to dye. Not only age and make the clothes look real, but to actually physically get the right colors of things. And so, yeah, the untold story is that we created our own factory and like a whole nother level for the wives, which was going to be almost like couture for terrible Gilead people in charge. But also I created in one night, Bruce Miller was like, oh my God, we have a demon, possessed demon on our hands. I had to create the language of each piece of clothing because I knew, and it did happen every day, that everybody else wouldn't know what to call these things. So if you were to say, bring the girls with the hats in, right? Well, there's many different girls in many different factions of society. And so because I've only ever studied Latin as a language, which is a dead language, I created a whole terminology for the clothing, which I think they were like, no, thank you, at the end of season 2. But it helped us, right, to have the actual dialogue of what these things, a vocabulary, not dialogue, of what these things were. To get there was half really researching what through time has stayed the same. What if so, and to get there, which sounds really sick, but it would make sense if you love history, I got into the mind of Adolf Hitler. And my most beautiful moment, there were many, but the most beautiful moment where I felt like I think I did right by Atwood, by Margaret Atwood, is that we made her into an ant. I didn't tell anybody that I was looking at Adolf Hitler, because then you're pegged by anybody dissecting the Handmaids like all she did was look at Hitler and those uniforms. No, it was only the interior of Hitler's mind. Margaret Atwood came to the fitting, or not the fitting, we had to make it for her without her trying it, which was scary. She came into her trailer, and there it was, hanging. And it's a beautiful, like if I could wear anything, I'd wear the ants' clothes, because they're man-tailored in a military kind of precision, with a little Prada thrown in, maybe, that kind of classic attention to, I mean, listen, Prada got everything from military uniforms, so I'm not saying anything crazy, but Margaret Atwood didn't say anything, and I was like, oh no, here we go, like she hates it. And she took a nod, and she goes, aha, Hitler, under her breath. And I was like, yes, because you don't know. You can't have those conversations. How I got there was not studying Hitler, but I remembered as an artist that Hitler wanted to be an artist so badly, so badly. I don't think he was very good, from what the books say. And he couldn't draw people. What does a madman who can't draw people, can't elevate in his mind what humans should do? You destroy them. Right or wrong? You can't be an artist. You can't elevate humans visually, creatively. You can't celebrate them, so you destroy them. It's actually kind of black and white for me. And so I took that as only part of the mind of the commanders. How can you, and cults, very fascinated, charlatans, religious charlatans, there are many all over the place, different types of religions in the South, all those things, the Jimmy Swaggarts, okay, Kentucky, beautiful Tammy Faye, right, and her guy, and their TV show, all of that crazy stuff mixed with a little fashion and a little David Byrne and David Lynch. All of that made The Handmaid's Tale for me. It was everything that I ran from in my childhood in Kentucky, embraced it, really looked at it under a microscope and made friends with it, and again, try to find the humanity in the why. People creating Gilead weren't thinking, oh my God, let's just destroy everything. It's too easy. No one thinks that way. Then you'd be like, you'd annihilate everything in one night. You wouldn't go for years to build something only to find that it's not working. Ultimately, I think, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, maybe I shouldn't. But I think Hitler as an artist, as a little boy, probably had some genius ideas. He hired Leni Riefenstahl. Nobody could be stupid who does that. She elevated something that he couldn't do, albeit terrible destruction. But, okay, Handmaid's Tale is a dystopia, but with dystopia, you cannot negate utopia to understand both sides of the mirror, you know? And so for me, I tried to get in the minds of anyone who had a utopic idea or ideal. Even in Hollywood today, who decided to come here to this place of cowboys and Indians and rolling hills and say, this is the perfect place for film? Who did that? A madman, you know, or an incredible creator, because, yeah, I just said, you know, who comes to a place and says, I want to start society all over again? Because in my mind, this utopia of ideas, this elevation of thought comes from a really beautiful place. Now, things get twisted with power, and in this case, the story, the patriarchy. I could be talking about Margaret Atwood's story. I could be talking about Hollywood, and I could be talking about our government. It's all one and the same. But you have to see the very beginnings of beauty. Not one villain is painted bad. Not one historical political figure, even the Orange Man, didn't start out bad. Okay? He twisted shit. I want to be that creator. As I said, maybe I didn't. When I'm breaking down a script and I'm putting myself in each of those characters, I'm not thinking about what they're wearing. Not at first. I'm thinking about their reason for entering the conversation in the first place, the script. I'm thinking what makes that person, Offred, interesting as the heroine, because she is a mirror to all of us watching this piece. How can I be that mirror in each of those characters, good and bad? And humans are fallible. No one is perfect. How can I take perfection of Gilead as a creator, as a madman woman who's creating the costumes in this factory, in this faction of the military that I'm creating, and then go on its side so that it's not perfect, so that we see the humanness and the wholeness with what some twisted creator thought was going to be utopia, so that we can go behind and see the dystopia.